Okay, good morning. So today we start with chapter 4, interaction modeling and design. Um, this discusses about um, the framework for interaction modeling and design. Um, what are the concepts behind it? And we few questions in part 2 and maybe even in the MCQs on some of the terminologies we learn here. Right? Important thing is understanding the context of it. Now you already have an idea what is HCI, human computer interaction, and what is user interface, what is user interface experience, what is user interface design. Now we are going little bit deeper into some of the terminologies we have to understand. Okay, so here interaction in the sense humans interacting with the system. So what kind of concepts are uh, surrounding this term called interaction? The purpose of an interaction system is to aid a user in accomplishing goals from some application domain, right? So in an interactive system, user has some goals. They want to achieve something from a particular application domain. So application domain means, which describes here, defines an area of expertise and knowledge in some real world activity. That means it is the uh, environment, or we call it the context. Different words can be used for domain. Now, for example, if you are dealing with the graphics design domain, there will be certain activities specific to that domain. For example, the concepts would be having knowledge about shapes, how to, you may need a canvas, or you may need a surface to draw. Then you may need a toolbox where you can pick, the different type of tools for drawing. So that is the graphics design domain. Similarly, if you are using authoring software, so it could be a video authoring. If it's a video authoring software, again you may have to have some idea and knowledge about how videos work and how the concept of frames, how you can cut a frame, how you can trim a frame, merge a frame, like that, different type of domain. Like that, if you take about, let's say, forget about direct interaction with the computer, there might be an indirect interaction where you are trying to control a process in a factory. So you have to have an understanding about what kind of operations on the factory side is going to happen when you are going to interact with the system. So domain means knowledge about some real world activity. Okay, so that is domain. So basically, user is trying to accomplish certain goals in a particular domain. And tasks are the operations to manipulate the concepts of a domain. So in each domain, we have concepts. So tasks are the uh, things that you do in that particular domain. So let's say, for example, um, in this graphics design domain, you have geometric shapes. You have the concept of geometric shape. So tasks that are related to those geometric shapes could be either drawing, resizing, maybe deleting, yeah, extending, whatever you want, maybe copy, paste. So all related to that particular concept in that domain. So like that, if you take each and every concept in a domain, you will have set of tasks that you do. Then you come to goal. Goal is the desired output from a performed task. The moment you start doing each task, you are trying to achieve your goal, right? So one task within the graphic design domain is the construction of a specific geometric shape with particular attributes on the drawing surface. So that might be a task. So the related goal would be to produce a solid red triangle centered on the canvas. Right. So canvas is basically the area where you start drawing. Normally we use the term canvas. Right? People who have used Photoshop might understand. Even in Microsoft Paint, you have that white color area. That first starting point is called the canvas. It's like the base framework. So this is how you understand task and how you relate it to a goal. So goal is basically the ultimate thing, the end point, what you need to achieve. So task is something that takes you towards the goal, and domain is where you perform the tasks. So it's the environment where you perform the tasks, right? Then apart from that, an intention. Intention is a specific action required to meet the goal. So this is like something you have the likeness. Now, for example, uh, you are thirsty, right? And you want to, so you get this feeling like you want to drink water, right? So what you see is in the distance, you see a glass of water. So first of all, your intention should be there that you have to either reach out your hand to pick the glass. So this is called intention. Intention means the likeness. If you want to achieve the goal, what is the kind of action you need to do? That is called intention. We'll discuss that with that example a little bit later. There is a nice, good example in the VLE website. I'll describe it there. Task analysis involves the identification of the problem space for the use of an interactive system in terms of the domain, goals, intentions, and tasks. So all these topics we learn. So task analysis involves the identification of the problem space for the use of an interactive system, right? So this concept involves if a user is there and there is an interactive system, whether this user needs to use that system or not, studying about it in terms of the domain, the goal of the users, the intention of the users, and the kind of task that he needs to do, that kind of analysis is known as task analysis. So you do a task analysis and decide whether this user needs to interact with the system or whether the system needs to inform something to the user. So that kind of a study is called task analysis. Right. The system and user are each described by means of a language that can express concepts relevant in the domain of the application. Right. So there are two important people involved, right, in an interaction. So when one person talks to the other person, the other party, they have to use a language. So the language used by the system's language will be referred to as the core language, and the user's language we refer to as the task language. So these are two important uh, keywords here. So when the system is now, to understand it in the another way, maybe the third point explains that the core language describes computational attributes of the domain relevant to the system. Computational attributes, right? Whereas the task language describes psychological attributes of the domain relevant to the user state. Okay, so let me put this into a simple way. You have the you have the system, you have the user. So from the user, if you want to say something to the system, you use the core language. So it's called the computational attributes, domain relevant to the system state, because we need to translate whatever is from the user side in a computational manner towards the system. So that is called core language. Then the other way around, when the system is trying to talk back to the user, we use the task language. So task language is mostly related to the psychological attributes of the user, because that is more towards the real human being. Right. Let's see if I can zoom this. Okay. So there is this thing called the execution evaluation cycle. When a system and a user is involved in an interaction, there are 7 important steps that takes place, right? This is called the Norman's model. There's a person called Norman, who introduced this concept that when a system or the user is involved in an interaction, there are 7 important steps. So first, the user has to establish a goal, what he needs to do. Then he needs to have an intention to act. Then skip these 2 diamonds. So intention should be there. After the intention, he will convert that into a sequence of actions of what needs to be done. That is the 3rd step. Right? Then he will start doing those actions, execution of the action sequence in the order. So that will go to the system side. So that is side of the execution path. Then when the system responds, so it will be from the user's point of view, they have to perceive the state of the system. That means as a user, you need to first grab the attention of what is coming. Then you have to translate it, kind of interpret that perception and make kind of a judgment. And then, so basically interpreting means we have to translate what has come. Then what you do here is evaluation of interpretation. Then you have to now judge whether your goal is achieved. So that is the final step. So these are the 7 steps. So you start with the goal, you make an intention, you prepare a set of actions, what need to be done, and then you start executing. In return, when the system is returning something as a user, you first see what is coming, perceive it. Just so it may be a sound, it may be some colorful display coming, it may be a message box. The first thing that comes from the system. Then you have to understand it, what it is, whether it is a message box, whether it is something else, something like that, right? That is the second stage. Then you translate what has been done, and then you compare it with your goal. Now, in between, on the side of execution, now there is this thing called gulf of execution. Gulf of execution means the gap between how the user wants to achieve something and the actions that can be supported by the system. That is called gulf of execution. Gulf means a gap, right? A gap between what the user wants to achieve and what the system can do. So that is gulf of execution. Gulf of evaluation means what the system presents to the user and in terms of what the user can understand, right? So system can present some information, but again, user needs to achieve his or her goal, right? So the difference between that, how they understand and interpret it, and the difference between that and what the system presents to the user, that is called gulf of evaluation. We'll be discussing this a little bit in detail with a proper description. So basically what should happen is, as much as possible, these gulfs should be reduced, right? The gap should be reduced. The more the gap you have, the more the system will be very hard to use for the user, because they may have a intention and maybe the system is not supporting, they will find it difficult. Again, the system might be producing something, it might be some valuable output, but if the user doesn't see it fit to their goals, then again they will feel this system is not working as I expected, right? Generally we have this feeling when we work with certain softwares, when we work with some websites and all, you may see this kind of you might have experienced this scenario. So basically these two gulfs need to be reduced. Right. So this is at 7 steps. You will have to memorize these 7 steps. You may get questions on this. So the Norman's model of interaction, that's what I explained. First, you have to establish the goal. Then you have to form the intention, specify the action sequence, what you need to do, what are the actions, then you start executing the action. So these 3 are the execution part of the execution. Then from 5, 6, 7, it is the other side, evaluation. So once the system responds, how do you perceive the system state? As a user, how do you capture the system state and how do you interpret it? And finally, you compare it with your goals and intentions, right? So basically these 7 things we can divide into 3. First, you establish the goal, then you have the execution part, then you have the evaluation part, right? So if a MCQ question comes also, you should be able to know which comes under which cycle. Okay. So explaining that further, first the user forms a goal. So keep this in mind, these 7 steps in mind. I hope you already remember that with this what I explained. Same thing here. Establish the goal, form the intention, specify the action sequence, execute the action. Then perceive the system state, interpret, evaluate the system state. So this is explained in this slide. First, the user forms a goal. This is the user's notion or idea of what needs to be done and is framed in terms of the domain in the task language, right? So in the task language, what the user needs to do, it is liable to be imprecise and therefore needs to be translated into the more specific intention and the actual actions that will reach the goal before it can be executed by the user, right? So what they are telling here, second point is, once you form a goal, sometimes that goal might be not clear, imprecise means not very accurate. So what we need to do after the goal, we have to formulate it into a more specific intention, as I told. Then with the intention, you will come up with actions that need to be done. Then finally, you start executing. Then once it goes to the system side, system response, the user perceives the new state of the system. It's trying to see what has happened in the system after execution of the action sequence and interprets it in terms of his expectation. So this is the execution cycle, this is the evaluation cycle. Finally, if the system state reflects the user's goal, then the computer has done what he wanted and the interaction has been successful. Otherwise, the user must formulate a new goal and repeat that cycle, right? So in this, that's why it's shown as a cycle, right? So when this thing comes and you do evaluation, if it has met the goal, then you have succeeded in the interaction. If not, what you will do is, naturally, we will try a different type of a goal. We will try to come up with, maybe we may change the goal, or maybe we may have the same goal with a different intention or different set of actions and try to achieve the goal, right? So either way it could happen. So that is the execution evaluation cycle briefly explained. Now discussing about the 2 gulfs, right? So gulf of execution, the first side. The gulf of execution is the difference between the user's formulations of the actions to reach the goal and the actions allowed by the system, right? So clearly see what they explain, the difference between the user's formulation of the actions to reach the goal and what the system can do. Now, for example, you may have a set of actions that you need to do because you want to achieve your goal. You are targeting your goal and you have come up with, this is what I need to do in the system. But when you go to the system, or maybe the software interface, you may not find those interfaces or whatever you had in your mind, right? So that gap is called gulf of execution. So if the actions allowed by the system correspond to those intended by the user, the interaction will be effective. The interface should therefore aim to reduce this gulf. So that is that part. Gulf of evaluation is the distance between the physical presentation of the system state and the expectation of the user. That means now system is, as I told earlier, system is now presenting something to the user, and user will have a different expectation because their goal is already set. No? Now, when the system is presenting something and it is not matching with the goal or the expectation of the user, then that gap is called gulf of evaluation. So, as you can understand, these two gaps, if they are very large, then it is not going to be a good system. I mean, it's not going to be a good experience. So in gulf of evaluation, if the user can readily evaluate the presentation in terms of his goal, the gulf of evaluation is small. That means if they are able to match it with their goal in some way, we can say the gap is very less. The more effort that is required on the part of the user to interpret the presentation, the less effective the interaction. So that way we can also understand different way. If user is spending lot of effort to evaluate the output, that means the gulf is too much because they are spending more effort, more time to understand what the system has responded to match with their goals. If that effort is too much, then you can easily say the gulf of evaluation is too large. Another way of explaining the same thing. So people have goals, things they are trying to achieve in the world, but devices typically only deal with simple actions. This means that the two gulfs have to be bridged. Okay. So the gulf of execution is concerned with translating goals into actions. So this is that focus area. And the gulf of evaluation is concerned with deciding whether actions were successful in moving the person towards his or her goal. So these gulfs have to be bridged both semantically. Does the person understand what to do and what has happened? And physically, can the person physically or perceptually find out what to do or what has happened? So basically they're explaining that same thing. So these two gulfs need to be reduced, right? So as a person, they have to, there are two things. Does the person understand what to do and what has happened? So whether they have a goal and they have to also understand what has happened from the system. So, and also physically. So semantical means something in terms of meaning or in your mind you understand. Also physically, can the person physically or perceptually find out what to do or what has happened? That means system response, but again they should also have a way to maybe physically interact with the system and see, find out what has happened or whether things have come correctly or not, something like that. They should be able to interact with the system. So this is going a little bit in detail. So these kind of questions or like answers to these can be reduced, can be solved when you have a less gap in these two sides. So any questions up to that on this area? Do you have any questions? I still haven't finished. I just want to know, is there anything you understood, not understood? Gulf of execution. So when you ask the question, what is the execution evaluation cycle? You can simply say Norman's 7-step process, starting with the goals, formulating an intention, creating the actions, executing the actions, perceiving the system state, interpreting it, and evaluating it. Will you be able to answer that if you asked a question? And again, the question on what is gulf of execution, what is gulf of evaluation. Any questions on that? Okay. No, sir. Okay. 2 people responded. Let me go to the. So this is a link provided in the VLE, a further explanation of this Don Norman's action cycle. So why this is shown as a cycle is, as we discussed, once they finish the evaluation and the evaluation results don't match with the goal, they have to start the circle again and again until you reach your goal. Right? That's why it's shown here. So he has given this person who has written this article has given a nice example to understand this Norman's scenario. Let's say this is the goal. Okay, this is the thing that needs to be done. A person wants to read a book. This is the scenario. So what is the first stage of Norman's model? Forming a goal, right? Forming a goal. So he's saying, I can't read my book because the room is dimly lit. I need more light in order to read my book. So this is the goal. He needs more light. So that is the first step. Now, second stage is intention to act. There is light next to my chair. Turning on the light would allow me to read my book. Okay, so this is the intention, the feeling that he gets. He already knows there is light next to him. So if he turns that on, he'll be able to read it. So that is the intention. Third stage, planning that action. So now what he needs to do is, I need to reach over and turn on the light. So that is the action that needs to be done. That's the planning, right? Then once the planning is done, execute the action. Okay, he will go and turn it on. That is the execution, right? So 4 stages over. Now the feedback comes from the other side. As you switch on, now the feedback is, so let's assume this is the successful scenario. The light is turning on. Now you interpret the feedback and see, I am now able to see the text and can read my book. Why? You are comparing it with your initial goal. What is your goal? You want to you need more light in order to read your book. So you are interpreting it with the lights on and saying, okay, now you are able to see the text and you can read my book. Imagine this is the negative scenario. What would happen? So when you're executing the action, fine, feedback is light is not turning off. What will be the interpretation? Again, you will see you won't be able to read the text, or you won't be able to see the light. So finally, you will evaluate the outcome, whether it is positive or negative. So in this case, positive would be, I am able to read my book, no further action needed. So this is the final stage, evaluation. Negative is the light doesn't work. So then you start over the action cycle again and again until you get a positive feedback. Our objective is to always meet the goal, right? So that's one way of understanding that. Here's another explanation on gulf of execution and evaluation. So that is also explained by Norman. So goes on to describe 2 areas where poor design fails to support the user's expectation. So gulf of execution means exists when a user is having difficulties determining how to execute a goal. Let's say a user is attempting to purchase an item from an online store. This is a scenario. She sees an item she'd like to purchase and wants to put the item in her shopping cart. Okay. Unfortunately, there is seemingly no interface element. For example, a button, icon, checkbox, or anything, which allows her to execute the action of adding the item to her cart. See, intention is there, but now interface is not providing the way to execute action. So having an online store where users have difficulty adding items to their shopping cart is clearly a failure in the interface and detrimental to the company's goal of selling products. See how important it is. So here the gulf of execution is very big, because you have a shopping store and you want people to come and shop, but you don't have a proper interface or a easy intuitive interface for the user to add the items to a cart, then there is no point in running that website, right? On the other hand, gulf of evaluation. The gulf of evaluation occurs when a user has trouble assessing the state of the system. Simply put, the user is expecting feedback from an action and not receiving at best what they expected, or at worst nothing at all. A simple example, okay, to understand gulf of evaluation. In the same scenario, add an item to your online shopping cart. Press the checkout button. So checkout means you are going to finalize it. Then you wait. Press the checkout button again. You wait again. You begin to scan the page to see if anything is happening. The user experiences pain and frustration. So the system has failed. See, once it starts hitting the user's emotions, you have a wide gulf of evaluation. That means this is important. Like that's why we have this timer kind of icon. You might have seen most things, most of the places when something is happening, you'll see this mouse timer rotating like this in a circle. The reason you can even have without that. Why do you have that kind of a circle thing coming? Okay, what I was explaining was you have this. See, when I'm refreshing or in between, you see that small cursor, time cursor, right? In Windows XP and all, you have that old kind of a timer where it turns upside down and all. So those things are important even on your websites. When you're loading a website, for example, let's say go to this dialog website. See, now it says not responding, but still I get that time icon, right? The same thing happens in websites also. When you're going to websites, until the website loads, until your content loads, sometimes you can give a timer. So let's see, we log in here. See this kind of icon, right? So that's what they are explaining in this thing. Right? So with the if the user had or the developer had added that thing here, that would have kind of avoided this frustration, right? So there are many different examples. You can understand how gulf of evaluation on this happens, gulf of execution happens. So these are some very important concepts when it comes to software design, user interface design. Okay. Then discussing about human error, two types of errors are common: slips and mistakes. Okay. If you understand a system well, you may know exactly what to do to satisfy your goals. You have formulated the correct action. However, perhaps you mistype or you accidentally press the mouse button at the wrong time. This kind of error is known as slips. You have formulated the right action but failed to execute that action correctly, right? Your intention, your action sequence, everything is correct, but no, the action whatever you had formulated is correct, but the order in how you executed the action, you have failed. That is called slip. However, if you don't know the system well, you may not even formulate the right code. True. So for example, you may think that the magnifying glass icon that you see is the find function, but in fact it is to magnify the text. So here there is a understanding issue. Right? This is called a mistake, right? So can you understand what is slip and what is mistake? So slip is you have the actions defined, but you didn't execute it in the correct order. In that case, you maybe click something by mistake by somewhere else. That is mistake. That is clearly understood. Sorry, that is called slip, right? Mistake means having a wrong understanding, right? So, for example, you think something in your mind and you go and execute the action, but system will do something else, right? So if we discover that an interface is leading to errors, it is important to understand whether they are slips or mistakes. So slips may be corrected by, for instance, better screen design, perhaps putting more space between buttons, right? Uh, Certain UI things you can do to avoid the slips wherever. So people might, if you have two buttons together, there is a likelihood with their mouse or the finger, they could click the either side, and it could lead to a slip. So that can be avoided. However, mistakes need users to have a better understanding of the system. So will require far more radical redesign or improved training, perhaps a totally different metaphor for use. So mistakes are a different type of error. Actually, it's more serious than the slip, because when you introduce a new concept into the UI, people will have different ideas. What this is, they may not have an idea what to do. Right now, I don't know whether you had the experience. Now, most people might have had the experience, including myself. Now, in material design, they now have a new kind of a logout button, right? So first of all, logout buttons are now shown as, I don't know, I'll show you here. Okay. Now, generally, we are more familiar with, I think, this kind of word logout, or like there will be certain things like that. Now they have a kind of icon where a user is going out like this. Okay. I don't know whether it is available here. So initially finding that out was very difficult. Generally we are familiar with the words, right? That is the initial design. Now they have something like this, right? With the user going out. So I saw this in a particular website. Maybe later it will become a standard. That's how they introduce standards, right? Whenever new change is coming, people will feel difficult initially. But what I'm saying is, you have to be, when you're doing your design, you have to be more informative when you are using certain things for the users, right? Maybe this might be a much more clear thing. Okay, understandable, going out, right? So that could, if people don't have an understanding what this is or what to do, then that is indicating you have a wide gap in gulf of evaluation, and it could lead to mistakes as mentioned here, right, rather than slips. Okay, so the interaction framework from another angle. Now we learned the 7-step process of interaction through Don Norman's model. This is another one. It's the same thing explained from another angle, right? So you have the system, you have the user this side. So user needs to formulate, user uses the task language and does the input to the system, and the input then translate them into the core language to the system. Then the system needs to produce the output and translate it to the task language where the user understands. So this is the general interaction framework. I think you have some questions on this, to draw this or something. So we have already learned this. Language of the system is called core language. It involves the computational attributes of the domain relevant to the system state. And task language is the language of the user, the psychological attributes of the domain relevant to the user state. So in this interaction framework, we talk about 4 stages. So the 7 stages are already coming as part of these 4 stages. So articulation, performance, presentation, observation. You can compare it with the Norman's model as well. So let's see how they're explaining this. The user begins the interactive cycle with the formulation of a goal and a task to achieve that goal, just like Norman's model. The only way the user can manipulate the machine is through the input. And so the task must be articulated within the input language. The input language is translated into the core language as operations to be performed by the system. The system then transforms itself as described by the operations. So the execution phase of the cycle is complete and the evaluation phase now begins. So from here to here is called the execution phase, just like in the other side, right? Then now the evaluation phase is going to start from this point to this point, right? The system, now once the input has come, now the system is in a different state. It is in a new state, right? So which must now be communicated to the user. So the current values of the system attributes are rendered as concepts or features of the output. So it is presented as output. It is then up to the user to observe the output and assess the results of the interaction relative to the original goal, just like in the Norman's model. So this ends the evaluation phase, right? So the next set of slides are going to explain each of these phases, what happens in each of these phases. So if you asked a question, describe the interaction framework, you can simply put this picture: system, output, input, user, and then mark down these execution phase items: articulation, performance, then the evaluation phases: presentation and observation. Articulation. The user's formulation of the desired task to achieve some goals needs to be articulated in the input language. The tasks are responses of the user and they need to be translated to stimuli for the input. As pointed out above, this articulation is judged in terms of the coverage from tasks to input and the relative ease with which the translation can be accomplished. Okay, so when you are preparing the task, it should be in a very intuitive manner, that however, what is the easiest way to interact with the system, right? So you have the goal, you have formulated the goal. So there are 2 things here. The goal is formulated plus the tasks are prepared, the intention basically, right? The task is phrased in terms of certain psychological attributes that highlight the important features of the domain for the user. If these psychological attributes map clearly onto the input language, then articulation of the task will be made much simpler, right? So psychological attributes are the attributes that you come up with your goal. So you have to then map those attributes to certain actions that you need to do, certain tasks that you need to do. So when you make that more simple, this process is going to be easier. An example of a good mapping is in virtual reality systems, where input devices such as data gloves are specifically geared towards easing articulation. You can see this is a good way. by making the user's psychological notion of gesturing an act that can be directly realized at the interface. So that's a very good example. So without any extra effort, when you're using a data glove, it's like the user's goals, intentions are directly appearing in the device or the interface. So direct manipulation interfaces such as those found on common desktop operating systems like Macintosh and Windows make the articulation of some file handling commands easier. On the other hand, some tasks such as repetitive file renaming or launching a program whose icon is not visible are not at all easy to articulate with such an interface. So there are certain things that you cannot do without involving more than one task or more than one cycle you have to do. In those cases, what happens is it is a clear indication that articulation is not matched. So articulation, simply to understand, matching the psychological attributes from a user's goal towards easily doable actions. So this is called articulation. Then once you have articulated, you have to now execute the performance. That's called performance. So the responses of the input are translated to stimuli for the system. Of interest in assessing this translation is whether the translated input language can reach as many states of the system as is possible using the system stimuli directly. For example, the remote control units for some CD players do not allow the user to turn the power off on the player unit. Hence, the off state of the player cannot be reached using the remote control's input language. So what are they telling? So some CD player remote control units, they don't have the facility to power off the player unit. Hence, the off state of the player cannot be reached using the remote control. So remote control may not have the power off function. So in that case, using the remote control, you may not be able to achieve the goal if you want to switch off. So on the panel of the CD player, however, there is usually a button that controls the power. So there might be a different interface, different, different button that would do the same thing. Right. So the ease with which this translation from input to system takes place is of less important because the effort is not expended by the user. However, there can be a real effort expended by the designer and programmer because if they are introducing a different button for doing the same this basic thing, that might be additional work for the programmer and the designer, but for the user it might not be a big issue. So in this case, the ease of the translation is viewed in terms of the cost of implementation. So performance talks about how the input is. So once you have started formulating the actions, now to do that action, what are the ways to reach the final system? What are the ways to reach the system is what is described under performance. Right? So the implementation might be an effort to do here. Right. Now the system responds back. Once a state transition has occurred within the system, the execution phase of the interaction is complete and the evaluation phase begins, as I mentioned. So the new state of the system must be communicated to the user, and this starts by translating the system responses to the transition into stimuli for the output component. So when you're presenting this translation, it must preserve the relevant system attributes from the domain in the limited expressiveness of the output devices. So this is a challenge. When you're presenting something from the system to the output, the system has the total answer of what the user has tried to achieve. So system is now having the total answer. So let's say the total answer is there, but when you're going to present it to the output component, if the output component is not having the ability to present all that information, then you can see there is an issue with that side, right? Even though the system is correct, output component may not support it, right? This is what happens with most of this, this movie clips and all. Now, certain things may, that's why you have these different formats, 3GP. For different devices, you need to have a different resolution. If it suits that resolution only, that picture will be at its highest quality, right? So the rendering part is very important. So even if you have a proper system that's producing the output, and your output device is not supporting, so here's it could be any of the other output devices I'm talking about, depending on the scenario. If it is unable to support that, then you have an issue with that part of the translation from system to the output. So important thing that translation must preserve. It should safeguard the relevant system attributes from the domain in the limited expressiveness of the output device. The ability to capture the domain concepts of the system within the output is a question of expressiveness for this translation. Right, so text here. Example, while writing a paper with some word processing package, it is necessary at times to see both the immediate surrounding text where one is currently composing, say the current paragraph, and a wider context within the whole paper that cannot be easily displayed on one screen. For example, the current chapter. You have this paper kind of concept in Word. So in Word documents, you see when you're typing, some people like to see the pages, like they like to see the flow of pages between one first and the previous page or the next page, without the need of separating it, right? Because they may be focused only on the text, but they don't care about the how many pages it is actually going to take when they are taking the printer. Right? I hope you already know. Just give you context there. So those are some challenges in presenting information to the user, or in the output limitation. Now here, this is a 17-inch monitor I'm using. Now the same thing might be different if I'm going to use a square type of a monitor. There is a challenge in properly presenting. Now here you can see this is one sheet. Now if I insert a new page, right, you can see it's 2 pages. Now I can simply make it 1 page. By doing this, I believe. Yeah, I think once you start typing, here it became 1 thing, right? So some people like to have it in this way. So they don't like to see that different section. But again, you have different options. Some people go into read mode, read the documents like this. Some people go to web layout, right? If it appears like a website. Whatever it is, we have to understand that what is the ability of the output device in order to present your information, because in all of these different layouts, the presentation is going to be different, and when you have a different presentation format, it could be understood differently by the users as well, right? So that is very important when you're designing websites for your mobile, for your tabs, for your laptops. So the application content, that's why we use a framework like Bootstrap to see how it fits into the different things. Because if a framework like Bootstrap is not available, imagine no matter how well your system is going to work properly, it might be a successful system, but if the output is not properly done, then your system is a total failure. Right. So that third part finishes at presentation. Now from the output towards the user is the observation. Now user has to now observe this output. Ultimately, the user must interpret the output to evaluate what has happened. The response from the output is translated to stimuli for the user, which trigger assessment. So observation translation will address the ease and coverage of this final translation. Some examples are given in terms of observation. It is difficult to tell the time accurately on an unmarked analog clock, especially if it is not oriented properly. Imagine analog clock means our regular clocks we have in a circle shape. And if the numbers are not properly marked, and if your clock is also not in the correct position, in the vertical position or perpendicular position, it will be very difficult to say what time it is. But you can say it's any time, right? Again, it is difficult in a command line interface to determine the result of copying and moving files in a hierarchical file system, right? So in a hierarchical file system, when you're using a GUI, you have this nice progress bar displaying from where to where it is going, what is happening. But in a command line interface, you may not be able to understand whether copying is happening or not. Sometimes it will be very quick or it doesn't show any progress. Developing a website using a markup language like HTML would be virtually impossible without being able to preview the output through a browser. So think of that. If you are going to have a design a website, that's why you have this IDEs, integrated development environment. As you design, you are able to see things. No, that's what we call what you say is what you get. WSYIG. What you say is what you get editors. That means as you drop the components, you are able to see the output. Right? So tools like Visual Studio Code, I think you learn under WAD2. Shyam used to show you the live changes. Like I have seen this jQuery when you were learning jQuery. So he was using a add-in in Visual Studio Code, where as you change the code, you are able to see the output. You are able to observe it, right? So imagine if that kind of thing is not there, you have to first do all the development, deploy it, and then see the output. That will be very time consuming in terms of the development efforts, right? Similarly, from the user's point of view also, it will be very difficult if they see something, they observe something different very lately, right? So this is what explains about observation part. So this is again just to summarize what happened. So you have this interaction framework is presented as a means to judge the overall usability of an entire interactive system. Right? What we learned now, this user input system output is presented as a means to judge the overall usability of an entire interactive system. In reality, all of the analysis that is suggested by the framework is dependent on the current task or set of tasks in which the user is engaged. This is not surprising since it is only in attempting to perform a particular task within some domain that we are able to determine if the tools we use are adequate. Okay, so to again wrap up what we learned today is we learned about interaction, user interaction framework. So two models we learned. One is the Don Normals model. That is one way of understanding interaction. The other one is the general interaction framework, which has these 4 components and 4 stages: articulation, performance, presentation, and observation. So if you are able to revise these sections and have a good understanding on this, you can easily answer the questions in the paper. And also maybe go through the web. In your VLE, they have provided some other references for examples of bad error messages. Even the notes, they have some additional discussion under that. I recommend that you go through the lessons there, the notes they have provided for topic 4, and I still haven't finished, so until this point I think I have done error messages. So these are some additional references. You can go and see good examples of good error messages, so bad error messages, which will give you an idea in relation to this Don-Norman section cycle. Okay, any questions? No?